this video, we will be discussing DML operations. DML stands for Data Manipulation Language. DML operations are used for manipulating data such as adding, retrieving, or updating information. Some of the most commonly used DML commands include insert, delete, update, and select. First, let's see the insert operation. This will be used to add data inside the table. Here you can see the syntax for insert operation. There are two ways to write an insert operation. It starts with statement insert into table name. In the first syntax, we specify the column names. Second syntax, we do not. And then we have the keyword values. And inside the bracket, we specify the values separating columns. If there are n number of columns, then there will be n number of values. Also, the number of times we write the insertion command is equal to the number of rows we want to insert. We are going to see an example how to create a table and insert values in it. But before that, let's see the select operation. The select statement in SQL is used to retrieve data from a database. The basic syntax of the select statement is select column name 1, column name 2 from table name, where column name 1, column name 2, etc. are the names of the columns you want to retrieve. And the table name is the name of the table where the data is stored. The from clause specifies the table from which you want to retrieve the data. After the clause select, if you give asterisks, instead of specifying the column names, all the columns from the specified table will be retrieved. The where clause. It allows you to filter the data you retrieved with the select statement. This example statement will retrieve only the rows from the table for the condition mentioned after the where clause. This condition helps us to filter the data. We will explore these conditions later. Now that you have learned how select clause works, let's look at an example for creating a table and inserting values in it. This is our favorite table to use in examples. That is the user passed activity. It is one of the table from our search engine case study. You are familiar with all the different columns by this table now. So I'm not going to explain those columns. This is the create command for this table. And here we have the table name. The first column is user ID and its data type is int, that is integer. The second column is user query and its data type is varchar and the maximum length given is 32. Then we have page clicked column. It is also of varchar data type and the maximum length is 10. Engagement is our last column. It has decimal values and hence we have declared it as float. After create command, we need to insert the values inside the table. Hence we use the insert command. We have 6 rows in our table and we have to write 6 rows of insert command. Let's look into one row. As you have already seen, the insert command starts with insert into statement. And after that, we have the table name, that is user passed activity in our case. And then we have the keyword values. And in the bracket, we write each column value. 1 is for column user ID. Then we write restaurants nearby in quotes for column user query. In types of data, you have seen that string data type need to be written inside quotes. It can be either single or double quotes. We are following the same here. Similarly, for column page clicked, we have string value, that is P1365 in quotes, and then we have 0.5, that is to insert the value in our column engagement. Now let's move to SQL editor and get our hands dirty. The SQL editor which we are going to use for our hands-on example is dbfiddle. It is an open source platform and you can access it from db-fiddle.com. On the left pane, we have schema SQL where we write the schemas, and in the right pane, we have the query SQL where we write the queries. Inside the schema SQL window, let's paste the command for the table creation and value insertion. This is the same command which we have just seen, and this code snippet will be provided to you in your LMS. To run the command, you need to click here. Let's run this. As you can see, we do not have any output. To see the table, we need to run a select query in Query SQL window. Let's write the command select star from the table name. In our case, it is user past activity table. Notice that we have a semicolon at the end of our query, which signifies that the query ends here. If we do not add a semicolon at all in the dbfiddle, we'll still run the query, but this is one of the best practice to follow. Now let's run this again. And this time we have our desired table as output. You've just learned how to create a table of your own in SQL. Now let's add a conditional statement to this query with a where clause. Now I want to only get the row where the user ID is equal to 1. That is, we want to print the row where the user ID is 1, which is first row in our table. Let's run it. As you can see, we have the row where the user ID is 1. Now, what will happen if we remove the semicolon from the last row and add it at the end of the second row? Let's see. As you can see here, we have a query error which occurred due to an error in our syntax. Let's bring back the semicolon to where it is supposed to be. Now let us run this query. As you can see, we have the correct output. As I have mentioned earlier, the semicolon comes only at the end of a query. Now, I do not want to print all of the columns. I want to print only 2 columns, user ID and engagement. So how do we do that? Let's update our query. Let us run this. As you can see, we wanted to retrieve data from just the columns user ID and engagement from the table. Now let us see the delete operation. The delete operation helps to delete the data from a table. These are the 2 ways we can write a delete operation. We can delete a part of the table for a given condition, or we can delete the whole table. Now let's see how these 2 works. Let's go back to the dbfiddle. This is our same old table, that is the user past activity. And this is the data which we have. Now let's delete a part of the table with the help of a where condition. Here, we want to delete the row from the table where the user ID is equal to 1, which is the first row. Now let us run this query and see at our updated table. As we can see, the first row is removed or deleted. Now, let us try and delete the whole table. Let us run this query. As we have seen that this syntax should delete the entire table. As we can see now, the whole table is vanished. Let's remove the delete command from here. And let us look at our table again. We got our whole table back. Now let's see the update operation. An update operation helps in updating or modifying the observations of an existing column in a table. This is how the syntax looks like. It starts with the statement update table name. And then in the second row, we have to use the keyword set. The set command is used with update to specify which columns and values that should be updated inside a table. And this portion means that we want to change some values in a column for a given condition, which is specified with where clause. And at the last, we have a semicolon. As you already know by now, the semicolon signifies that the statement has ended. One important point to note down here is update operation will modify all the records in a table if we do not mention the conditional statement where. Now let us do some practical. Let's go back to dbfiddle. So this is the same table, user past activity. Let's look at our table. Now, let us look at the first row. We have the user ID is 1, user query as restaurants nearby, page clicked as P1365, and the engagement value is 0.5. We want to update the engagement to 0.14. So let's see how we can do that. Here we have our update statement. Update the table name with the keyword set. Engagement is equal to 0.14, and we have given the where condition. That is, where the user ID is equal to 1. That means just for the row where the user ID is equal to 1, the value of the engagement column will be updated to 0.14. Now let's run this query and look at our table. As we see, the first row is only changed to 0.14 in the engagement column. Now let us see what will happen if we do not give any conditional statement. Now let us run this query. All the rows in the table engagement column is updated to 0.14. So without a conditional statement, the values of the whole column will get updated. Okay, with this we complete our DML operations. Just to summarize, in this video you have seen how to create a table and insert values into the table. You have seen select statement with from and where clause. You have also learned how to update and delete tables.